So we will get started. So today on our lunch hour webinar, we're going to be talking about setting up your team for success. So thank you for taking some time out this afternoon. We definitely appreciate that. For those of you who may be already familiar with us or not, we are EZSigma Group. So this webinar is put on by us and our sister organization, Bay 3000. We do specialize in Lean Six Sigma training, consulting, project management, and our sister company, Bay 3000, specializes in project management and soft skills development, such as facilitation skills, emotional intelligence, and many more. We also offer some software to help out with either of those. So if any of that is of interest to you beyond this webinar, you're more than welcome to reach out to us at any time. So I am your facilitator for today, Elizabeth Jamischak, and I just would ask that you keep your microphones muted for background noise, as that'll be less distracting for everyone on the call. So to start off today, I want to just begin with this quote by Phil Jackson. The strength of a team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team. And I like this quote. It does beautifully summarize my approach and philosophy towards leading teams. I've had the privilege of leading many different teams over the years, some sales teams, some project teams, and some volunteer teams, multi-generational teams. So, and I'm positive that all of you are also aware that each team being made up of individuals is unique because each person is unique. We all have our different skill sets. We have our different perspectives, experiences that we bring to the table, our different ways of approaching a problem or thinking. And that can be a huge asset to the team. However, unfortunately, I have seen some people over the years, some team leaders, who've seen that more of a liability. And I just would encourage us as we go through this short time that we have together to keep in mind how our uniqueness can benefit the team as a whole, and how our diversity in every area really adds to what we can build and what we can be united towards. And this is something that I've personally tried to bring this mindset to every team that I've led, and I'm quite certain it has definitely benefited me in the long run. So for today, we're going to highlight 5 different aspects of setting up your team for success. We're going to start by communication and communicating that impact that whatever it is you're working on, we'll say project for the purposes of this webinar. So the impact of that project, how to manage expectations both as a team and as individuals. So what are those goals? What are people working towards? And what are they expecting out of this? We're also going to talk about matching skill sets to assignments and whether your team members actually have the capability of doing what it is you're asking them to do. Having those check-ins, we're going to talk a bit about coaching, and then finally about celebrating wins, and not just the big win at the end of the project, but also small ones along the way. And all of these elements, when you bring them together, really should give you a great foundation and really set you and your team up for success. So we want to begin with impact. And this is something that I found to be very beneficial in every team that I've worked on. And that is really communicating clearly what it is that we're working on is going to benefit not only the immediate department or immediate area that we're targeting or focused on, but how it also ties into the mission and vision of the organization, the overall impact, and the specific impact on how how it'll help or what it's going to do for the end user and customer, whether that's internal or external. Because what this does, it gives us all that common point that we're reaching towards. And as I mentioned earlier, everybody is unique. We all have different viewpoints. We all have different reasons for doing what we're doing. But if we're working towards that common goal, at least we've got that in to unite us and to really bring us together and to help be the basis for a lot of our conversations. And the reason I also want to bring this up is because not everybody can just pick that up on their own. Not everybody can just be handed an assignment and immediately understand how this is actually going to make a difference in what they're doing and what is the value of this. Why should I invest my time in doing this other than being told that I need to? So giving that extra bit of background really can help your team. And along with that, it's defining what success is and what does success look like for this project? What does success look like for a department and potentially even for the organization? I mean, many studies have shown that the majority of people, it's something around in the 80, it's around 83% of the people have no idea what the strategic priorities are of the organization that they work for and how they tie into what the mission and vision is. So if we can make those connections, then that also adds to our culture within the team and within the organization to really help, again, unite people. So giving your team members that understanding of what is success for me individually and as a team, again, really helps to clarify their purpose. So with those expectations, we want to ask a few questions. As we already discussed, is success defined? Do I know as the leader what it is I'm clearly working towards, or have I just been handed an assignment without being given any additional information? Is success communicated? And with this, I'm not talking about just a one-time communication or a one-time email saying, hey, this is our project, these are our team members, and this is what we're doing. It's something that I would strongly encourage you to weave into your conversations throughout the entire lifetime of what you're working on. Again, to keep that focus and to really make sure people understand what it is that they're working towards. And along with that, it's not only you communicating to them, it's them communicating back to you and telling you in their own words how they understand success to be. Because I'm sure we've all been in situations where we think we're saying something quite clearly, yet the person receiving the information understands it completely differently. So when we're doing this, again, we don't want to be condescending. We don't want to be school teachery. We want to do this more in the context of a coaching opportunity to make sure that we're both aligned together. And we can communicate in many ways, whether it's email or whether it's face-to-face, on the phone, however it is. Use these different avenues, these different ways of communication to your advantage to really solidify that with your team members. We mentioned, is it understood? And another key aspect is it achievable? And not only achievable on the grand scale, but is it achievable financially? Do we have those resources in place to pay for this? Is it achievable with timing? Have you been given enough time to complete the project? And do your team members have enough time in their schedule to work on this project? Is it achievable based on skill set? Do the team members have the proper skills to complete it? And lastly, is it achievable based on motivation? And that's something I think that we often forget about, is that we may have all of our other ducks in a row. Everything has got that check mark, that gold star, but people aren't sold on the project. They're not motivated to do it. They don't see the value in it. And when that happens, if there's another opportunity, another meeting that comes in that clashes, chances are yours is going to get pushed to the side and they're going to prioritize something else if your project doesn't have any value to them, they're not motivated to complete it. So making sure that we've got all of those expectations in check and that we really are set up for success on the grand scale. Now, can it actually be achieved? Well, some great questions to be asking yourself throughout the lifetime of the project is, well, you see them on your screen. So, first, is the responsibility that you've assigned to people, is it sufficient for what they can do, or can they do more? Do they need to do less? Because once you get into the project, things change. We start to discover things that maybe we didn't know at the beginning. Maybe we determined that, hey, team member A doesn't actually have enough time to do what we thought that they could do initially, but team member B has more time than we thought. So do you need to do a little bit of shifting, a little bit of rearranging once you get going? Are there things that are coming up that require some kind of disciplinary action? So, are there some team members that are maybe not intentionally, but perhaps are doing things that are putting hold on the project, that are creating bottlenecks, that are being disruptive? Are there things that need to be addressed? And have we actually communicated that there are potentially consequences that could come from this if people are being incredibly disruptive, or if something terrible is going on, or even something that is working negatively against the project? Do we need to ask some people to move on to other projects? Do we need to adjust responsibilities? Do we need to have a conversation about attitude? And do people know that there are potential consequences that could arise based on what's going on? Does your team understand the goals? Because again, it's one thing to state it, to have the person respond back, and to appear as though you've got clarity. But then once people actually start doing the work, are their actions reflective of their understanding and their words? Are we all practicing what we're preaching? Are we doing what we say we're going to do? Or do we need to maybe revisit this and see if people understand, or if there's something going on that's making what we initially set out to do shift a little bit? If we've got rewards, if we've said that, hey, when we hit this milestone, this will happen, or once this project is done, we're going to accomplish this, or this individual, perhaps maybe they've been promised that if they work on this project, they could get a raise, or they could get a promotion in their title. Well, those are fantastic things, but do they really reflect, are they really aligned with the amount of work that they're putting into it? Or is there misalignment? Is it unbalanced? So again, making sure that all of those we're keeping connected, and we're also making sure that we're not inadvertently creating animosity between colleagues because we've promised one reward to one person and another one to someone else that seems completely out of whack. So these are things that we can be looking at as team leaders as we move throughout the project and throughout this your team process, to make sure that we are still keeping ourselves ready and set up for success. So we touched on accountability. And this, again, I think it's important. It doesn't seem to be spoken of as much these days, especially over the last few years. But again, I think it's something that people really, really need. They need those boundaries. They need those guidelines to know, hey, where can I kind of push the boundaries? What can I do? What is inappropriate? What is going to hold us back? And what is going to move us forward? Part of that is milestones, just setting goals. And if we've got our first milestone set for 5 weeks from now, well, what are the consequences if we don't hit that? Is that going to snowball into other departments or into other areas of the organization? Or are we really siloed off from everything? So if we don't hit it in 5 weeks, it's okay if we hit it in 6 weeks or 7 weeks. So really understanding that and knowing if these are very hard goals or if they're a little bit softer, if there's some flexibility. And again, making sure your team understands that as well. If they know it's an absolute deadline hard goal and they haven't had as much time leading up to it, well, maybe that means in week 4 they've arranged their calendar to spend that extra time to get us there. Or do they have a bit of flexibility to spread that over 2 weeks? So it'll help them manage their schedule, it'll help you manage your schedule and reduce some potential frustration along the way. And with that, looking at schedules, understanding, does your schedule reflect what the priorities are that you're working on? So if you are scheduling things as well, are you showing up to meetings or are you rescheduling them on a regular basis? Because that not only communicates to your team what the priorities are, but it also communicates to your colleagues and your peers about, well, do I want this person working on my project down the road? Because they tend to always be pushing things off. So be aware of that as well, of what your actions, what tone you are setting up as the team leader. And with that, when we're setting up milestones, when we're setting up goals, a key area is to make sure that the goals and the assignments that we're giving to people are things that they are actually capable of accomplishing. Because if we are asking, let's say, team member A to do data analysis, yet that is not something that they have any competency in or any interest in, we really aren't helping them individually, professionally, and we're not helping our project. So a great tool that I've used in many different areas are skill matrices. And this, I've used it on a very grand scale where it's just basically plotting the project goals and assignments to how that ties in with the overall scope of the organization. I've also used it more specifically and much more detailed. So I'll show you a couple different examples here in a moment, but it really is an enlightening tool also because it can tell us how our team members perceive themselves. Because I might think that my team member is absolutely amazing at writing the final report based on what I've read from them in the past or what I've seen from them. Yet perhaps from their perspective, they think they're only mediocre. So this could be a coaching opportunity that I could take advantage of and to help them and to encourage them. Or it could be an area where this person might be an expert and they've been doing this particular skill set the majority of their career and they're now ready to develop something else. So I could move them, give them an assignment to help them develop their new skill and pair them up with someone else who perhaps is more on that expert level to help coach them along the way. So it really can be a great tool that you can use in a few different areas. So this is a very basic example of one. If you're looking for something a little bit more detailed, this is another example. Or if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, this is a rather complex skills matrix. So again, once we've got that, we've got our goals, our team is aware of the impact, they understand the impact, they can communicate the impact. We've set people up with their assignments, we've got some milestones, we've got our goals. And so that is really important in bringing all of this together and starting to show, okay, so you are working on this to move this aspect of the project forward because this project ties into these strategic priorities, which then is aligned with what our mission is as an organization overall. And this also, by developing your skill set, this could help you with your goal of moving into this role or moving into this department or whatever the case may be. So tying all these things together as well is a great way to keep your team motivated and united. And I have touched on this aspect of encouragement and acknowledgement, and I want to spend a couple more minutes on it because I found this to be very important. And I understand this doesn't come naturally to everybody. There's some people who just aren't the type of people that will think to acknowledge someone for doing their job, what they're supposed to do anyway. And there's other people that go above and beyond to do that. for instance, for myself, I'm the kind of person where if someone tells me, I don't think you could do that, that does not motivate me to try harder. That discourages me, and I don't even want to give it a go in the first place. Whereas if I have someone who says, hey, I really liked how you did this, or I can see you're working hard there, or I think if you try this new skill, I think you could actually be really good at it. That for me is all I need to really go for it and really try very hard. And so, for those of us who maybe not naturally an encourager, I would definitely challenge you to try that, even just small little bits here and there, just to say, hey, you did a good job on this part, or just acknowledging something. Because one of the activities, I'll call it, that I implemented with the team I worked on, it was a volunteer team, it was multi-generational, and we had a 1 week assignment. It was very intense. So as a team, we met at the beginning of every day and at the end of every day. And so at the end of the first day, I had asked the team and implemented this encouraging each other. And so I had this yellow manila envelope. I just kept it in the middle of our team table with little cards, and asked everybody that if you see one of your colleagues doing something that's worth recognizing or acknowledging, just write an anonymous note to them, and then we'll read them at the end of every day. And the first couple days that we started this, there were maybe 3 or 4 notes. And by the end of the week, there were a ton of notes happening. And what was amazing is that at the end of each day, when we were in our final team meeting, and I would read these notes of encouragement, sometimes all it was, hey, person A did a great job talking to this customer. Or person B, I saw the work that they were doing and I was quite impressed. Or person C, they just had a really good attitude today. When those little notes were read, the people that were on the receiving end of them, their eyes and their face just lit up like crazy. And I started to notice throughout the course of the week that the attitude and the culture of the team started to shift, and people started to naturally help each other out. They started to be more patient with each other. They were smiling more. They were more gracious with each other. They were less quick to make wrong assumptions about people or bad assumptions about people. And it was wonderful to see, because I'm sure a lot of you have read studies and have heard that happy people, positive people, tend to be more creative. They tend to have greater critical thinking skills, better problem solving skills. They tend to work more quickly, more efficiently on assignments that they're given. And it's that positive attitude, that positivity just permeates through everything, and it really can make a big difference to a team. Whereas if someone is falling a bit behind or drops the ball, the other team members are more likely to come alongside them and support and help, so that the project itself doesn't get derailed and we can still move forward. So again, if this is something that doesn't come naturally to you, then I would definitely challenge you to try it out. Maybe give yourself some reminders to do some encouraging, and to even encourage your teammates to do that for each other, for their colleagues, in whatever way is capable for you, however your team is set up. So when it comes to scheduling, I would strongly recommend that you connect your schedule to your milestones. That if you're going to have some full team meetings, that you make sure anytime that you bring them together, that there's a definite purpose and value to that meeting, because you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste their time, because once that starts to happen, it starts to change people's attitude towards what they're working on. And we don't want to open that door even a crack. So keep them short, keep them sweet and pointed, purposeful, and make sure your team understands what the purpose is for it. And if you are in a circumstance where you cannot connect with everybody all together, except maybe at the beginning, at the end, then of course you want to adjust your schedule a little bit, especially if you're working with people on different shifts, and give yourself an ability to have those connecting points, one-on-ones where you're touching base with everybody. Not every day, maybe not every couple days, maybe only once a week, but to have those one-on-one times where you can have some coaching opportunities. And something that will also be quite revealing to you is when you're scheduling these, does your team actually take the meeting seriously? Are they showing up? And are they showing up on time? Are they showing up prepared? Are they engaged when they're coming? Are they just sitting there kind of off in space or doing other things? Or are they actually paying attention and trying to get through the meeting as quickly and effectively as you can so everybody can go off and do their other work? And that will tie back into the expectations that you set and the value that you gave to this project you're working on. And again, how all this works, it also reflects on the people that you are answering to and how your team responds. So when it comes to coaching, there's a myriad of sources out there, whether it's online articles or books or movies that have come out over the years on coaching, especially sports teams, and they're all very heart wrenching. I tend to uh, really love some of these movies, tears and all. But there's a few key points when it comes to coaching that I really want to zero in on. And I recently went through a course on being a leader and on coaching, and they just reiterated some great points. And one of the key ones is that coaching should be to empower people. It should be to help them see and help them to learn to problem solve better, to develop those critical thinking skills. And coaching really shouldn't be a time that you come in and you give all the answers in all the direction, because I'll pause for a moment there. There are times when that will be necessary, but one thing that we should always remember is that I could be taken out of the equation at any moment. If I'm in the middle of a project, I might walk out and get hit by a bus one day. And if I have developed my team to the point where they are 100% dependent on me, they can't make any of their own choices without running it by me first, even though we all know where the end goal is, then if I'm taken out of the equation, that makes it very difficult for whatever it is I'm working on to really continue and to hit the goal. Whereas if I'm the type of leader that has empowered my team to make choices, that we still all know what our endpoint is, it's like Google Maps. You put in your destination and it usually gives 2 or 3 different options. And if you and I put in the same goal, we may each, or the same destination, we may pick 2 different routes, but we'll still get to the end destination. So that's the kind of thing we want to do with our team, is we want to give them the power, the confidence, the empowerment, the critical thinking and problem solving skills that they can continue on and keep the project going, even if something disastrous happens that could in other circumstances completely derail it. What this will also do is it helps to build that learning culture, and it'll really keep that positive attitude between your team members as well. So a course that I mentioned that I went through recently, one of the ways that they talked about coaching was asking questions and making sure that we as leaders, again, are not interrupting, that we're not just giving the answer at the end, that we're showing the path and helping to guide someone to get through to their solution. And the way that they developed these questions is what you see on your screen here, where it was basically like building blocks. So they called it a Kickstarter, but kind of like breaking the ice question, having a learning question to make sure that whomever you're speaking with get something out of the conversation. And then if you want to dig in a little bit deeper, if you've got a few extra minutes to keep going, to start to focus in and zero in on what's really happening in your teammates or your person's life, to give them an opportunity to go beyond the surface, and then to really get down to the nitty-gritty of how do we build this foundation and how do we move from there. So the specific questions that came up in this course to get started would be just an open-ended, what's on your mind? And now this, I know that I've met and spoken with some people that are very nervous about asking this, because some people, you give them an open-ended question and then they talk for 20 minutes and that's it. But I think there's definitely circumstances where this is very important to at some point have this, and to not interrupt the person that you're speaking with, and to just give them an opportunity to talk about what is happening, because we never really know what might be going on in the background. If one of my team members looks like they might be struggling, or looks like they may not be committing as much time as it appears that they should be committing, well, I could come up with all sorts of assumptions and presumptions about that. Quite often, they tend to be on the negative if we're honest with ourselves, because generally, as people, we don't often assume the best. We tend to assume the worst of people. So by asking what's on your mind, it can give us a whole myriad of information that will help us not only work with this team member and help them to develop in this project, but maybe adjust the assignments that we've given them. Maybe they're being conflicted with other assignments they have at work. Maybe there's something in their personal life that, again, no details necessary, but just something going on. Or maybe there's a technical issue with their assignment that they're really struggling with, that you could direct them to the proper person in IT to have it resolved within the afternoon. But without asking this question, giving an opportunity for them to speak, we may never find out. So, and then at the end of that conversation, which may only be 2 or 3 minutes, asking them what was most valuable to you, what was most useful. What that does is it forces them to replay those couple of minutes that you two just chatted, the solution that you came up with, or the next step that you came up with, and reinforce that. So that increases the likelihood of those steps actually being taken more quickly and being remembered. And so if you have a few more minutes and you want to dig deeper, or maybe in your next little coaching opportunity, here's are some of the next few questions you could go into from there. And the first one is, what's the real challenge here for you? So for instance, let's say someone's been assigned with gathering data points for a project, and they said, I'm really having a challenge with this. I'm having a hard time getting the data. Well, as the leader, there could be a few different scenarios that come up. For instance, well, maybe this person is having a hard time knowing what tools to get the data. Maybe they don't really know where to look for the data. Maybe they don't know how to interpret the data. Maybe the people that they are getting the data from, maybe they're not getting that data. Maybe they're giving them different data than what they're asking for, because they think we want other data. So without finding out more specifically what the challenges is, or what the challenge is going on for this person, we could give them solutions that have absolutely nothing to do with the problem that they're actually facing. And from there, once we know or have a clearer idea of what that real challenge is, asking, well, what else is going on, gives even more opportunity to really funnel down into where we can offer them some extra help if it's required, or even just some advice, or maybe a learning opportunity. Because generally when you ask, the majority of people will just give the surface level of what's going on or what the challenge is, and they won't give you maybe the second or third challenge related to that, the detail. So when we say, and what else is happening, it not only communicates that we care and that we want to know that they're a priority at this moment as we're talking to them, but it really gives them an opportunity to think more clearly in their mind. Well, okay, let me connect the dots. Yes, I'm having a challenge getting data. I'm having the challenge getting data because it's not arriving in time for me to hit the milestone. Well, it's not arriving in time to hit the milestone because I'm not asking for it in time. So they need this amount of time to get it. And so it really makes it much more clear about what is going on, where is the potential bottleneck, or where is the issue that we can overcome together. And then finishing up the conversation by asking, what do you want? And very simple question, but I have a suspicion that we don't ask it very often. I know personally, I've rarely been asked that question, and it's an important one. So, not only what do you want maybe in this specific situation, but also what do you want with regards to this project? Why did you agree to work on it? So maybe this is where you'll find out if that team member is using this to move into a different area in their career, or to get a promotion, or to do a final project before they're deciding to cut back and cut down on their hours. So we have no idea, or maybe they want to use this as an opportunity to develop a different skill set. So again, giving them that chance to tell us what it is that they want will help us to know what is their motivation and how can I encourage them, or how can I continue to help them move along this so that we're hitting our milestones and we're hitting those goals. So just to wrap things up here, we want to start off by ensuring our team understands how this project fits into the grand scheme of things. How does it tie into what's going on in the department or the organization? And how does that tie into our mission and vision? How does this give any value to our end customer, internal or external? Are we managing expectations clearly? Does our team know as a group where we're going, what we need to accomplish as individuals? Do they know whether there are consequences if things don't happen? Are there hard goals? Are they soft goals? What do you expect from them personally and culturally as a team? Are we matching the skill set of our team members with the assignments that we're giving them? Are we setting them up for success in that area or for failure? Are we helping them to develop professionally or individually, personally? And are we scheduling regular times to connect with people? Are we scheduling too frequently or not frequently enough? Are they tied into the milestones? Is there a purpose? Is there value to the time that we're spending with them? And are we doing those more informal, shorter check-in coaching opportunities with our team members? And when we're talking with them, when we are having those coaching opportunities, are we actually listening to them? Or are we finding that we tend to interrupt people as they're speaking, or making assumptions about what they may be thinking, instead of actually giving them the space and the freedom to talk to us and to let us know what is going on? And finally, encouraging and recognizing our team members, not only at the end when we've hit the final goal and we've completed the final project, but are we taking advantage of those small wins along the way to really encourage them and say, hey, good job on this, give them a pat on the back, or whatever version that is for your team? Or are we recognizing publicly for people that really benefit from public recognition? So with that, I want to thank all of you for spending 30 minutes or so with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out. As mentioned, this meeting is being recorded, so you will be receiving a link to the recording along with a copy of this deck that you can refer back to or share with anyone that you think it may be of value to. And you'll see some links here as well with some different articles that you can research on top of that. However, as I mentioned, if you ever have any questions about this topic or any other soft skill topics or Lean Six Sigma, reach out to us. We would love to help you out in that area. So have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you once again.